Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope wherever you may be across this great country, you are able to tune in today, share the show with your friends, and we are able to have a good time. It's Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day. I am Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. We do this show pretty much every day of the work week, weekday. And we come on around this time. We have got a lot to get to today. And there is going to be so much intelligence that I'm about to share that I'm going to encourage you to do something that I don't encourage you to do very often. Share the show. If you are watching this right now and you in any way value what I say ever, I would encourage you right now to go into Facebook, to go into Periscope, share the show. And when we're done today, I would encourage you guys to share it with all of your friends and colleagues out there because I think this is an important subject. It's one that typically doesn't get very much attention, and it is emblematic of what I think is the biggest issue facing our country today. And that is what is appropriate to say on social media, who can say it, how can they say it, what should companies do in response to it, are you entitled to a private life at all? And in particular, how has Disney treated very similar speech dissimilarly based on whether or not it agrees with the content? Off the jump, we'll talk more about sports tomorrow, but if you're going to get gambling info, you need to go to sportsbookreview.com. And if you need a mortgage or you got credit card debt and you need to wipe it out, you need to go to my friends at thehomeloanexpert.com. You can also go check out the top of my Twitter page. My book is coming out soon. It's called Republicans Buy Sneakers Too. It's got the greatest cover, if I do say so myself. I hate to brag, but it's got one of the greatest covers I have ever seen for any book of all time. I'd encourage you guys to go check it out. It's pinned at the top of my Twitter feed. If you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and get the pre-order done. All right, let's start here. If you don't know what has happened in the free speech world since we last talked, on Friday afternoon, Disney tried to sneak in a hire. They announced that they were bringing back Keith Olbermann for like the fifth or the sixth different time. This to me was an incredibly surprising move because I had given credit to ESPN because I thought they had started to abandon their far left-wing ridiculousness and tried to get back to their mainstream business, which is just talking about sports. Instead, they bring in Keith Olbermann. And Keith Olbermann has a history, as many of you know, of saying all sorts of ridiculous things on Twitter. And I want to start here with Olbermann because I think it's a great jumping off point. People say, why are you talking about Disney? Well, Disney is, until this past week, the largest media company in the world that exclusively exists to provide media. So the decisions that they make from a content perspective matter a great deal because they're copied by many other companies and because they've helped to set the precedent for what is and what is not a acceptable speech. So here are some of the things that Keith Olbermann has tweeted about the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Whether you agree or disagree with Trump, I want you to hear some of these, okay? What needs to be replaced is this motherfucker today, this morning, now. That's responding to a Donald Trump tweet. To hell with you, you motherfucking traitor. That's Keith Olbermann responding to a Donald Trump tweet. You just denied health care to rape victims. Go fuck yourself. That's Keith Olbermann responding to Donald Trump. Fuck you, Donald Trump. Honest to God, real Donald Trump. Shut the fuck up. # resign. Let me repeat to real Donald Trump about vets to PTSD what I said to him today about defending dog poisoners. Hey, Donald, fuck you. Gorka resigned so the day isn't total loss. Now leave the country, you Nazi fuck. Keith Olbermann responding to Ivanka Trump, who is saying something nice about her father. Then tell your racist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi father to get the fuck out of our society. From Keith Olbermann, go fuck yourself at real Donald Trump. Here's Keith Olbermann again. You and POTUS can go fuck yourselves, you racist Nazi fucks. You will not destroy this country, Donald Trump. Go fuck yourself. And we're clear, this is where the fucking lying anti-democracy fuck lied to the American people with no, quote, fucking marks. This is all Donald Trump being attacked by Keith Olbermann, who was hired on Friday by ESPN. The hurricane is going to do less damage to schools than you are. Right before the hurricanes hit last fall, motherfucker. That's responding to Donald Trump suggesting things that people could do to survive hurricanes. So people are dead, and instead of condolences, you're attacking the elected authorities, you little rat-faced git. Go fuck yourself, Junior. These are all things that Keith Olbermann tweeted directly to Donald Trump. He has also deleted other things, including this unbelievable tweet, which is no longer up, but I think is worthy of being read. And let me scroll through to it. Fuck you, real Donald Trump. Nazi, Nazi, fuck, Nazi, Nazi, racist, all caps, Nazi, bigot, all caps. Go fuck yourself, fucking Nazi fuckers. That is Keith Olbermann, ESPN employee, weighing in on the President of the United States. He also published this book, which is really complicated and goes a long way towards explaining his political beliefs. Oh yeah, it's called Trump is Fucking Crazy. This is not a joke. All right, that's the book that Donald Trump published. Again, Trump is fucking crazy. And in parentheses, just in case you thought, okay, maybe that's satire, maybe it's being delivered for humor, this is not a joke. So he believes that Donald Trump is psychopathic. He believes that he is a white supremacist. He believes that he is a Nazi. And he believes that he is mentally deranged. And ESPN just hired him. Okay? ESPN simultaneously has allowed Jemele Hill to be employed, but has said that her calling the President of the United States a white supremacist was quote-unquote inappropriate. Okay? They also fired Curt Schilling because he agreed with the North Carolina transgender bathroom bill and posted a meme on his private Facebook account that reflected that fact. So what you have here, and now today, Roseanne, in a series of unhinged tweets that are very similar to what I just read to you from Keith Olbermann, has had her sitcom canceled by Disney because they found her tweets to be inappropriate. Okay? There are all sorts of comments that I could go through from Disney, ABC, and ESPN, which give you a very clear standard at play here, which is if you are a left-winger, you can say whatever you want and you have no punishment for anything that you say. The moment that you are conservative and you say anything, you get fired. Now, I am a First Amendment absolutist. What is ironic about that in this day and age is that many people claim to care about the First Amendment, and almost always, they are out there and they're defending speech they agree with and they're attacking speech they disagree with. It triggers a lot of people that I oftentimes will stand up and defend speech that I personally don't agree with because I think it sets forth an important principle. I believe in the marketplace of ideas. The marketplace of ideas holds that everybody who has an opinion, regardless of what that opinion is, should be able to share that opinion publicly, and that as a group, based on all of those opinions, we will consider all of those opinions, and we will then be able to end up with an opinion one way or the other, okay, about what and what is not appropriate. And when you have a stifled discourse of what is and what is not allowed by a company like Disney, it artificially distorts the marketplace of ideas, and frankly, it leads to a viral contagion that can result in the election of Donald Trump. Now, I want to explain something here that is going to be way too complicated for a lot of you, but many of you are going to love it. Many of you are going to love it because for this reason. What I am suggesting matters is that companies put in place content neutral policies. Let me explain by what I mean by content neutral. I mean, you don't pick a fucking side. That means that if you are a Republican, your standard of speech is the same for Democrats. If you are a Democrat, your standard of speech is the same as for Republicans. If you are an independent, your standard is the same as Republicans and Democrats. In other words, the company doesn't promote people it agrees with politically and fire people it disagrees with politically, because that creates a mess, okay? If Disney had a policy, and that policy was none of our employees can ever tweet about politics, and if they do, we will fire them, I would understand that policy. I would certainly understand that policy at ESPN. If they came out and said, we are paying you millions of dollars to talk about sports, I don't care, Curt Schilling, what you think about the North Carolina transgender bathroom bill. I don't care, Jemele Hill, what you think about Donald Trump and whether or not he's racist. I don't care, Bomani Jones, about whether you think the Cleveland Indians nickname is racist. I don't care, Keith Olbermann, what you think about the president. If you want to work here, you are going to talk about sports specifically. Anything else is too much. What social media has done is it has created the idea that everybody has to be opinionated on every single thing at all moments of all days. And so as a result, we are awash in opinion. We are awash in outrage. We are awash in perpetual indignation. I think this is a big issue that Twitter and Facebook have created. I think the more I have studied this, I believe that it's not a coincidence that in 2016 we nominated the most hated Democrat to ever run for office, and we simultaneously nominated the most hated Republican to ever run for office. Because I think social media, through the way that they have gamified social media, rewards extremism and punishes moderation. What I mean by that is, effectively, Twitter is a video game. And when you get likes and you get retweets, and the same thing is true of Facebook, you follow and are more likely to follow whatever path that led you down. And what consistently is rewarded on Twitter and on Facebook is extremism, downright untruths, being sold to a small niche audience that believes that everyone who disagrees with them is wrong. We have created a group of feudal totalitarian lords. And a good example of this is this race-baiting clown, white dude, pretending to be black, Sean King. He regularly sells false stories. There's no consequences whatsoever for his falsehoods. And by the way, you can say the same thing about Donald Trump. You can say the same thing about a lot of other different members of the media. They sell things that are not true. They then pick up an audience and they fight, no matter what happens, to object to everything that is out there that challenges their worldview. And what I would say, let me circle back around on this to the First Amendment. Why I think this is so significant, okay? Why I think this is so significant is because, yes, the First Amendment does not protect you from consequence. There is no doubt. And by the way, the First Amendment is also not a one-way street. It's amazing to me, all the people out there who want to argue that Colin Kaepernick has the right to protest in his uniform on the football field, and then get upset at the fact that people are disagreeing with that decision to protest the national anthem and the flag and exercising their own right of First Amendment speech. The First Amendment, when it works well, is a two-way street. I can go down this side of the street arguing one thing, and you have the right to come down the other side of the street arguing the exact opposite. If you believe that Colin Kaepernick has the right to protest in his uniform on the field while an employee, frankly, I disagree with you because labor and employment law is straightforward. He does not. But you certainly can't then get upset when people who disagree with his protest counterpunch. It's like thinking that the only way a fight can occur is one person can walk up and punch another person in the face and the other person doesn't get to throw a punch back. The First Amendment, when it is well regulated and defined, should be a fair fight. Two different sides throwing punches, one side knocks out the other one, and that's how the marketplace of ideas should work. We have two physical combatants mentally sparring, and one of them has the better side of an argument, the other one has the other side, and the loser loses in the court of public opinion. That does not mean that they're racist or sexist or that their opinion is unacceptable. It just means that the majority rules. That's how American democracy works. Okay, this is all very important. And if you have a First Amendment, which is now, I believe, being stifled by companies, which are more powerful, much more powerful than states could ever be. And this is all written about and talked about a lot in my book. Would you rather be, if power was your goal, the president the governor of North Dakota or the CEO of Disney? There isn't a single person out there that would rather be governor of North Dakota than CEO of Disney. The governor of North Dakota cannot restrict your speech. The CEO of Disney can restrict your speech. In fact, he can oftentimes make a decision about whether or not it is acceptable for you to have your opinion. That's exactly what happened with Curt Schilling. That's exactly what happened with Jemele Hill. That's exactly what happened with Keith Olbermann. And that's also exactly what happened with Roseanne. And it is not a coincidence that the more left-wing your positions, the more likely you are to be protected by Disney and Bob Iger. The more conservative your opinions, the more likely you are to be kicked to the curb. That is why I am advocating for content-neutral determinations when it comes to speech. If Curt Schilling can't say he agrees with the North Carolina transgender bathroom bill in his own private time on Facebook, then how in the world can Jemele Hill be allowed to say that Donald Trump's a white supremacist? How in the world can Disney/ESPN hire Keith Olbermann after he's come out and said all of these things about Trump being a Nazi? That is the truth. Either you have, everybody has complete right to say whatever political opinion they want, and we're not going to police it when they are making political opinions outside of work hours, which I think is certainly one very fair perspective to take, right? You could easily say that beyond a shadow of a doubt, everybody has the right to say whatever political opinion they want. Or you could easily say, we are not ever going to talk about politics. This is a sports company. Everyone should be treated the same. That's what content neutral policies apply. That's not happening right now. And it's not a coincidence that people who have conservative thoughts are managing to get fired and people who have liberal ones are actually managing to get promoted. I got to tell you, I think this is a big problem. And I think it continues to be a big problem with most people not understanding the way that free speech works. And furthermore, and I think this is also significant, somebody said, Clay, they'll come after you next. So what? It's a good point. I get regularly told, how can you say the things that you say? How can you publish the books and publish the articles that you publish? The truth of the matter is this. I've got enough money. I've got enough money. I'm worth 8 figures now. I don't need to worry about being employed for the rest of my life. I was talking about this with my wife the other day. I said, guess what? I got a beach house. I got a mansion. I don't even know what I would choose to spend my money on if I made a lot more. So the idea that I need to go from being worth over 10 million to being worth over 100 million, my life's not going to change. I'm just going to be leaving more money behind to my kids. I'm a capitalist, but I don't even know what I want to spend my money on now. There's really nothing that I want. I'm doing my show right now from Rosemary Beach. I've got a great place and one of the best beaches in America right now. I've got a house outside of Nashville that I never believed I would ever be able to afford. I used to, when I was a kid, drive through the rich neighborhood, and I live in a far richer neighborhood than I used to drive through when I was a kid and wonder what the rich kids had that I didn't, okay? What matters to me now at the age of 39 is being completely free to say exactly what I think every day. And I got 3 hours in the morning to say it, and I got an afternoon show to say it, and I got a website to say it. And I got to tell you, I think that ultimately the way everything is progressing, we need a company that is going to give absolute creative freedom to people and say, fuck it, we don't care who gets upset as long as you can put on entertaining shows. And I don't know who the person who's going to found it is going to be. I think it's probably going to come out of Silicon Valley. Maybe it's going to be Peter Thiel. Maybe it's going to be Elon Musk. Somebody out there is going to put billions of dollars into a go fuck yourself content company. And that go fuck yourself content company is going to be amazing because they're not going to sit around all day worried about whether people are going to get offended by what the shows put out or what the actors and actresses say or what the writers say. They're going to just be convinced and obsessed with putting out the best possible content. And I think that opportunity out there is ripe right now. I think you could create a direct-to-consumer content company that is not going to be worried about perpetual advertising boycotts, that's not going to be worried about perpetually triggering people out there. They're just going to say, produce great content. That's our only goal. We're going to give you complete First Amendment freedoms. We're going to tell you to be smart, be original, be funny, be authentic. But we're not going to sit around all day and worry about what people tweeted or whether their Facebook messages were offensive. And I think it's going to be a revolutionarily good thing for our country. Because I think what happened with Donald Trump was a lot of people supported Donald Trump, not because of Trump, but just because they were convinced that our country has become a pussified republic, that everybody out there is perpetually offended, and that as a result of people being perpetually offended, the ability of full First Amendment battles in the public is not going to be able to happen because you got to worry about triggering people. And so I think that's where we're headed. And this is a right time for that to happen. I've got it myself, but I'm just rich. I'm not wealthy. I can't afford to employ 250 other people like me, right? There are a lot of billionaires out there that could afford to do that. And I think a lot of them are libertarian leaning like I am, and they are bothered by the perpetual pearl clutching and perpetual falling on the fainting couch that happens all the time in this social media driven universe. And so if you're out there like me and you're sharing facts, I said this on Twitter yesterday, I think Twitter has an obligation to start to look at people who are consistently spreading and propagating falsehoods, who are sowing division in this country and are profiting off of it. And I think they need to start to remove some of those people from Twitter. I really do. I think they need to have almost a Supreme Court of Twitter to look at all these cases and say, yes, you deserve to be here. No, you do not deserve to be here. Not content-based discrimination, just fact-based discrimination. Are you actually making cogent arguments? Because look, here's the other thing. This is why the First Amendment matters so much. There are many things right now that are happening and being argued for, which in years to come will be massive, popular, majority opinions, and right now are fringe opinions. I don't know what those are. If I could see the future, it would be fabulous. I would go out and I would make all the best arguments I could so that 200 years from now, people would say, you know who was a genius before his time? Clay Travis. He had everything right. He knew what the world was going to be like in 2218. If you go read everything he wrote in 2018, the guy was 200 years ahead of his time. I don't know what those things are. But what happens in the First Amendment marketplace is fringe ideas expand and become more majority ideas. And what's so amazing about all the people out there policing First Amendment speech now is that many of them don't understand that the minority rights which they are opposed to may one day end up being majority rights. And if you stifle the discourse of ideas and the marketplace of ideas in this country, then you aren't going to allow that to actually transpire. So this is an important lesson, I think, about where the world is, how the First Amendment matters, and why it's not being applied evenly and from a content neutral perspective. So that is my point straightforward here, is that the Walt Disney Company's free